Hello and welcome to Radio eSteno. I wanted to share with you an article in the JCR, Journal of Court Reporting, and it's entitled Horror Stories When Things Go Wrong. The first article is by Marilee Johnson, freelance cart and captioner in Minnesota. When you're missing equipment. The job is easy when everything goes right. What do you do when it goes wrong, or even worse, when you forget your computer? This is not something anyone wants to admit happens, but it does. In my situation, I drove 90 miles to provide cart services to a room full of deaf and hard of hearing individuals. It was not just a room of hard of hearing individuals, but it was a support group helping them cope with their newfound hearing loss. I didn't realize I forgot my computer until I got to the job site. When I got there, I was lucky enough to be able to borrow a computer. I was able to download my CAT software from the software website, download the drivers from my writer, and since I keep my code on hand, the key to access my software, I was able to input the code, grab my dictionary, and layout files from the cloud. I was up and running in less than 10 minutes. You can be the greatest writer, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't have the needed equipment. Having a backup, as many forms, feels redundant until you need it. I was lucky as I had great internet connection where I was located, but we aren't always so fortunate. In addition to keeping everything in the cloud, keeping a backup USB in your car with your software and necessary files can be a lifesaver if you are in a remote location and don't have access to quality internet. I always carry with me, personally, 2 machines, 2 laptops, 2 of everything, and people have laughed at me, but I will never have this situation where I have to scrounge around looking for a computer, or if one of my machines isn't working. So backups, so important. The next article is called Dealing with a Micromanager. It's by Kelly Ann Willis from Dallas, Texas. I was contacted by an agency to cover a huge real-time daily arbitration for them. It was 2 weeks long, and the agency owner was concerned about it going well. In short, he micromanaged me from the jump, including the first day of the arbitration. All day long, I had been reporting for 30 years at that point and had handled all sorts of real-time and daily copy trials, arbitrations, and depositions. It is exactly why he contacted me for his job. The micromanaging was so intrusive and so frustrating. On the second day, I grabbed my son's computer instead of mine. I was horrified when I unpacked my stuff to get started. I really had 2 choices, deal with it or give up, and I never give up. I have my dictionary and all my include files in Dropbox. I have the writer drivers in Dropbox. I downloaded Eclipse and called them to get a temporary license. I installed the writer drivers. I downloaded Steno Direct from Live Litigation and called them to get a license. I had 45 minutes to get this done, and I did. We did not start even 1 second late. I remember the video tech guy watching me slack-jawed, but I nailed it. As a follow-up, that agency owner and I have worked on dozens and dozens of jobs since then, and he never micromanaged me again. I have flown to Asia at the drop of a hat for him. Even though I'm an official now, he contacts me if he needs something, and I have a lot of friends that I refer to him. So again, if you have a backup computer or whatever you need, you won't even have to scramble. You'll just open up the backup. This one is entitled Accept It When You're Sick, from Teresa Russ in Bellflower, California. I had accepted an assignment to caption a meeting several months in advance. When I was younger, I did not have allergies, but over time I have become very sensitive to a variety of fragrances. For several months, I have been coughing and running back and forth to see my doctor. I was starting to feel a little bit better. However, as the days got closer to the meeting, I thought I was feeling well enough to go to work. I had been on medication for weeks. So when I arrived at the location, I still felt very druggy. I blew it off and proceeded to the conference room. I set up my equipment as usual. The chair to the committee started talking, and she spoke very fast. My mind could not keep up, not to mention my steno fingers. When she stopped talking, I took a deep breath. My captioning was not my best. I was undecided on what to do because obviously I was not myself, and I was unsure whether to stay the entire 8 hours. It was only around 9 a.m. How in the world was I going to stay focused? I was so upset because the deaf attendees were depending on me. I dug deep inside my survival bag, my purse. I had brought cough drops and water with me. After the break, the meeting started again. I was fumbling and trying to suppress the cough that was starting to emerge. It was time to take another break. One of the members, who happened to be the secretary to the committee, leaned over and asked, "Are you all right?" I replied, "I've been sick, but I thought I was getting well." She kindly said, "It's okay, I'll help you. I'll take notes too." By the end of the day, I was starting to feel a little bit better, and my concentration had begun to improve. The attendees, as they were leaving, told me I did great. As nice as that statement made me feel, I still felt pretty uncomfortable about my real time. They were so kind and appreciative. My tip: if you are sick, you should probably stay home and take care of yourself. And one more called Zap and Fizz by Suzanne Trimble in Sanford, Florida. This is the horror of all horrors. The year is 1998. I was a new reporter, and I had been invited to do a week of depositions in London. Who could say no to that, right? I thought I was completely prepared. I bought a power converter for my laptop and writer, and I had my passport in hand. I was ready and excited. My flight was 17 hours straight from Seattle to London. On takeoff, the crew discovered that the air conditioning went out. The flight was so hot that the flight crew handed out cups of ice. After having no sleep for at least 32 hours on this awful flight, I thought this would be an excellent time to try my power converter. Unbeknownst to me, I plugged it in wrong, and the most unfortunate thing is the first thing I decided to plug in was my writer. Zap and Fizz. My motherboard was completely blown. I called Stenograph and realized I either don't have a repair contract or I have the wrong one that doesn't include a loaner to London. They could send a motherboard, but I would have to put it in, and that would take time. I called around to see if I could find a loaner in London. It is an understatement to say that did not go over well. So there I was, no support network, no backup plan. I was a newbie, trained to be a real-time reporter, writing on a machine with no power, so paper only, relying on my paper notes and recordings for hours of depositions and wondering how on earth I'm going to get transcripts out of this huge stack of notes. Takeaways. 1. Before working anywhere, make sure you have the right support contract for your writer and computer. 2. Carefully choose what you plug in first to try a power converter. 3. Have a backup plan for equipment in case something goes wrong, no matter where your profession takes you. So again, I will jump in here and say, in all of these stories, if the reporters or captioners had backup equipment with them, none of this would have been a problem. The end of this article says how to make the best out of a bad situation. Keep your cool. Yes, we know you're under stress. Take a deep breath, and if you need to step out, we get it. Make a quick call. Take a sip of water. Tap into your resilience. You can do it. 2, keep some backup equipment with you. An extra writer in your office or car, an extra computer in your bag, and a second set of the cords and connectors that you rely on most often. 3, have a copy of your dictionary and files accessible online. If you need to rebuild your system or download everything and the internet is working well, a download might be just what you need to get back on track. 4, keep a backup USB with your software and necessary files in your bag or car. 5, you never know when you might need support. So really, does it pay to keep your contract up to date and handy in case of emergency? It really does. So again, I agree. Always have backups with you. Even if you keep your stuff in the cloud, keep things on a backup drive at home or on a flash drive that you can take with you. Don't be caught without what you need. It's so easy just to reinstall everything. And just as soon as you can, if you're a new reporter, buy that second machine as soon as you can. And I wouldn't leave it in my car as they suggest. I take everything with me. Even if on the way home from a job I go to the store, I take everything in with me because I don't want to risk losing any of it. And just for a motivational moment here, I want to share with you this saying: you are the sky. Everything else is just the weather. All right, please have a great day and go forth and steno.